I am Tim Dooner here with Michael Vincent.
How you doing, everybody? Good afternoon.
Day 2 of what is a work-from-home lockdown, self-quarantine for a lot of people, big changes in the United States. So first things first, we decided to launch this show. We're going to put it out on Tuesdays and Thursdays for as long as coronavirus is impacting our industry, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right. And bring on some guests, talk about this from different angles, right? From the freight market angle and from an economic angle, and try and keep everybody abreast of what is going on. Things are changing. It's a very fluid situation, right? Things are changing quickly.
Yeah, and we're monitoring the comments on social media. Have you guys up right here on LinkedIn, also on YouTube and Facebook, where this show is being played live. We also have a phone number. However, at the moment, Zoom Voice is actually down, probably because so many people are working from home.
It could be. Yeah, overload, right?
Yes.
Everybody's from home. So hopefully we'll get that up and running, because it'd be nice to talk to people. It's nice to see that. But hey, they can hit us up messaging. Is that right or no?
Yeah, if you hit us up on messaging on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, we'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Any
Sounds
questions
good.
that you may have.
Look forward to that. If you've got some questions or input, always welcome. Love to hear from everybody.
I don't know if you read the notes from the Goldman Sachs investor call, but I found those very eye-opening, and there were a few highlights that I pulled out from there.
Yeah, I thought it was very eye-opening. I thought it was excellent because it kind of summarized some of the things that myself being concerned about what is going on, obviously, right? Unless you're hidden under a rock or just, very desensitized to these things. We've certainly heard people say, it's just the flu, hang out, don't worry about it, right?
Yeah.
It was the kind of information that I kind of look for on a daily basis is, to get my head around how long could this be? What is this? What are the actual numbers? Is anybody really doing the math and figuring this thing out? You hear about fake test kits and so on and so forth, and X number of people have it, but it's really 10 times that, et cetera.
Yeah.
It was kind of refreshing to see, sources that I consider to be fairly reliable to discuss it and give me a little bit of clarity this morning when I read it.
Yeah, one of the big takeaways from there was that peak virus is expected over the next 8 weeks, declining thereafter. That seems like a guess. I mean, flattening the curve if everyone stays home, best case scenario, hopefully, right, Michael?
Yeah, exactly, right. I think it is a best guess, and I think everything's a best guess right now. So, I mean, there were some other points inside there where they talk about where it's confined to as far as the geographic, right? Between certain... in certain zones, right? So it's acting like it is a cold weather flu type of thing, and so I think that 8 weeks, along with what we've seen in the trends in China and other places, seems to be lending credibility to that guess of 8 weeks.
Yeah, and we already have some people tuning into Panama Pinto. He says checking in. Amit Kumar Body says checking in. Amit from India, Delhi. Jesse DeLeon from Houston. Stephen Sharp from Chi-Town. Stephen Slots. He said, he's got a question for us. Let's start right out with one. He says, a shipper wouldn't allow me to physically check in. Had to call and give a pickup number, but they came out to give me paperwork. So much hate. So not necessarily a question, but a commentary on what's going on at the docks.
I think the commentary was they did the right thing doing a virtual check-in, and then walked out and handed him paperwork.
And that's right down the street from us in Trifton, Georgia, where this occurred.
Yeah. Oh, in Tifton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's Trifton or well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's interesting, right? They're trying to do the right thing, right? And that's where people, you find yourself, or at least I did early on. I'd go out and make sure I'm not touching, I'm not doing this or whatever. But, Saturday I was at the grocery store and somebody sneezed like 3 aisles over and 5 people, filled their pants in the aisle that I was standing in, right? Everybody kind of jerked like, whoa, no, right? And then you walk up to the clerk and you're checking out and you're handing cash back and forth and that type of stuff, which doesn't really make sense after you've taken so much trouble going through there to try and stay safe, right?
Wow. Amit Kumar Bate, account manager at AVS Cargo Management Systems, says, flight operations maximum shutdown till the 31st of March due to this, which he's expecting billions lost. I think we're actually going to cover that in news. That was also in today's pickup. A couple more. Neil Grenier he says he's busy in Maine. Glad to hear you're working. Wolfman, Ryan, Jake. Hi, guys. This is a global pandemic. It's affecting everybody. We've never had anything like this. We called yesterday's What the Truck the greatest the largest work from home experiment in human history, because it really is.
It really is. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people trying to work from home and a lot of companies scrambling to try and set it up. I was talking to a friend at a large brokerage firm, freight brokerage, mid last week, and it was taking them 2 or 3 days to get everybody set up with the necessary tools to go home and work. Is what their delay was. Getting people home was just they didn't have the means to do that.
What do you think of this? Global GDP growth will be the lowest in 30 years at around 2%, Stark. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of a scary number, right? Hopefully hopefully they're wrong. Hopefully it'll be better than that, right? Are they looking at worst case scenario, or is that the trend if things are good? Or I don't understand where that trend comes from, right? But hopefully that's not accurate and it's better.
Well, I think they shed some light on it and put things into context where they said there will be economic damage from the virus itself,
right,
but the real damage is driven mostly from market psychology. Viruses have been with us forever. Stock market should fully recover in the second half of the year. So very optimistic. I love it. I'm an optimistic guy myself. Maybe we should bring on one of our market experts, though. He can tell us what's going on in trucking. Zach Strickland, please
good
join us on the stage. Thank you.
That's an excellent suggestion. I like that.
Jesse Rodriguez says, same with Ford. They are requesting a questionnaire from all personnel before getting into any Ford plant. So we're starting to see shippers, receivers take this a lot more seriously, Zach.
Yeah, that's interesting. The fact that we're seeing these volumes like spike. I mean, we're 20% higher than we were this time last year. That's a tremendous number. It's bigger than any seasonal effect to gross demand that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
We saw, our tender volume data was built in 2018, March 1st, 2018, right amidst this huge economic booming,
right,
global investment, everything's doing well. And we hit about a 10,000 number, it was about 10,000, 11,000 at that point. And now we've broken all the way through to like 11,800, 11,900.
We're at 11,841.57 today, which has yesterday it was close to 5% over the peak of 2018, which wasn't March. Right. It was late June.
Right.
So we're above the peak in 2018.
Way
if
above
you remember how bad, rejects and where pricing was going then. Right?
So what does that look like in real life? So you're using numbers, basis points, those kind of things. But what does this look like in terms of the trucks moving and the goods? Is this all toilet paper, hand sanitizer, rice?
So yes, a lot of this is going to be, your short haul movement from DC to retail store, a lot of replenishment, a lot of restocking. Most of the volumes that we're seeing are on the short haul side. So anything moving less than 250 miles or so, which is a sign of, final mile type pressing, back to the delivery to the store type stuff. So yes, it's definitely more of the
wow. Don Alexander, he said he had to have my temperature taken before a shipper let me through the gate to get loaded. Now, question to the listeners who are delivering goods and who are commenting with this stuff, is it taking a lot longer to get your deliveries in there? I mean, this is just one more holdup in terms in the line.
Yeah, wait times, I think, are starting to expand, especially on the pickup side. I think we've seen reports of super long lines at P&G areas. Some of these bigger commercial warehousing facilities are definitely getting stacked up. I mean, you go to your grocery store, you can see it. They're going to have to replenish this really fast, and it's going to stack up.
That's part of the grocery stores in particular why they're curtailing hours, right? Is to sanitize and restock. They've got to step back, take a breather, get the goods in, right?
Yeah, and they're going to have these normal schedules that they're going to break. I mean, they're going to have commissary come in like every day instead of twice a week.
Yeah. Scott Pisaic, account executive at One Point, which they just had their shutdowns, right? They shut down that company, One Point Logistics. He said unemployed, so he must have lost his job in that, and having to interview after being part of the mass layoffs in Nashville. So much fun. Probably not the best time to be going out looking for a job, right?
Not
Unless you're delivering goods.
It depends. I mean, Amazon is trying to hire a lot of people. Yeah,
100,000, they said?
Like 100,000 people. So it depends on what industry you're in. I mean, the food industry should actually do well out of this. The e-commerce retailers are going to do well out of this, at least in the short term. It's really cloudy on what that looks like, though, moving into the second half of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of fluctuation, though. I think we're going to have this peak outside of season we're going to go through this period where everybody's working from home. I don't think anybody really knows what that looks like. I mean, I think one of the things that you're going to have Anthony Smith on eventually is interesting is to look at the jobless claims, because that's where the spending power is. That's where your consumption is going to start this whole process. And that's the part that everybody's concerned about. For freight, that doesn't necessarily mean that freight dries up and goes away, because people are going to continue to buy a lot of stuff. It's the service side that's going to take the hit this time around.
Yeah.
Not the durable goods type stuff.
Drew Treat, business development manager at Estate's Express Line, says delivery driver practices being considered: no inside deliveries. Drivers will maintain social distancing to stand 6 to 10 feet away. Drivers would not be obtaining signatures from consignees. Drivers will record the exact time, note any exceptions, and obtain the name and person who is accepting the freight. What do you think the cause and effect of these measures may be? Because now there's even less oversight on what goods are entering the warehouse.
Right. No, I think you're definitely going to...
Right. I mean, we've all worked in warehouse operations, and...
I've worked in warehouse operations where we had scanning and everything, and we still found ways to
screw it up.
Freight. Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Here's a tough one to read. Leah Myers, she says, our drivers need restroom supplies and hot food. Our drivers need to be seen and recognized. They're closing rest areas also. And this also, Stephen Sled says, PA is shutting down travel plazas and rest areas. Where are we supposed to park? So this isn't just one person. Truckers all over are seeing these issues. And I think that day to day, we're starting to see things slowly get worse, and more places we can go taken away from us as we quarantine.
So, yeah, it's gonna detract from capacity too, as drivers are not able to get into places. They're going to be stuck at DCs, loading, unloading. The process is going to be more and more backlogged the longer it goes.
Well, you've got this delay at loading and unloading at the DCs, right? The wait times are going up, and that's what we're measuring here at FreightWaves on a daily basis, and you're seeing that occur. But now this what we're not monitoring and looking at, right, is what is going on at all these rest stops and these rest areas, and the issues with these drivers who are right now the lifeblood of what is going on, right? We need them to keep moving. So at some point, does somebody step in? Does the government step in and take control of these, or do something to keep these things open and sanitized and working so that goods can flow?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the government does run a lot of the rest areas, but you're talking about TAs and pilots and things like that.
Do they come in and assist with this at some point?
Like have the National Guard run rest areas or something?
I don't...
I mean, there has to be some kind of measure, right? If we have to have goods moving, the people moving the goods have to have places to take showers and go to the bathroom and eat and park their trucks. We always say... people always forget about the truck driver, and this is Thank a Trucker Week, but it seems like whenever we make policy or we make these decisions, the first group that's forgotten is the trucker.
And it's because there's a lack of understanding of what they do and what they go through. And, I don't understand fully what they do because I didn't drive the truck, And a lot of these policymakers are far removed from that. I mean, we've all worked in at least transportation and the trucking industry. And so we'll have that inherent knowledge. We've all talked to truck drivers over the years.
Yeah,
we know pretty close to what their day-to-day life is like. These people that are making these policies don't necessarily understand that fully because maybe they were just tangentially involved in transportation in some way and don't understand it fully.
Jamin says he has seen longer load times as shippers try no-touch loading measures. He's in Newport Beach. We just saw yesterday the Burbank area just got put in lockdown for the next, I believe, 3 weeks.
That's insane. And that's, I think that we're not coherent of what that means fully. I mean, when you shut down an area, that means they don't go anywhere but to go get something to eat, just survive, basic survival functions. So that means that production is shut down entirely. You can't do anything effectively except just do basic living. I mean, that's...
We had another driver here, Russell Vasquez, who said, thanks for your hard work. I come in this morning and dispatch told every driver to call in the morning to see who had work. I'm a company driver. I went from working 52 to 55 hours weekly, but he's seen a huge drop down to 40 to 41 hours a week. So do you think some of this contraction that we're seeing in the freight movements is going on there, or these shorter moves? Why do you think that may be?
So a lot of it has to do with whatever commodity or industry that your company is going to be hauling. I mean, there's a lot of industries out there that are probably not doing very well right now. A lot of what we measure is a lot of consumer goods, a lot of end product goods. You have your toothpaste and your toilet papers and stuff like that. But I mean, think about anything that you're going to stock up on. There's a lot of that out there, but there's industries that aren't getting a lot of, they're going to suffer as well. I mean,
nobody's hoarding automobiles.
Right. Yeah. Automobiles. I mean, name it. There's a lot of things out there that aren't going to get moved. So, maybe carpet, for instance.
Right.
Not a lot of carpet refurbishing demand right now.
Yeah.
As everybody's kind of sitting in. Or clothing. Clothing, for instance, may not be doing as well.
It's not an essential thing for most people.
Exactly.
Right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So depending on
washing
what
machines, toasters, dryers, that type of stuff.
your specific
you can
niche
get into it,
may not be benefiting from all of this, at least right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But we may see spikes in other places, right? Like
Yeah.
in terms of home entertainment, people might be refurbishing their home offices. They know they're going to be stuck in there for a while, getting to do a lot of things around the house that they'd planned on doing with all this work from home time.
Right.
I know you guys are all working, you're hard at work, but things get done, right?
Yeah, no, there's definitely that aspect of, think Amazon is hiring a bunch of people. People that, are normally using this time to work are now sitting online, ordering e-commerce.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're trying to keep their kids entertained and so on while they're stuck at home.
there's a whole nother lifestyle change there.
To Dooner's point,
Yeah, exactly.
might as well get some outdoor furniture and hang up.
Or maybe you see
People
something
are dealing with it different ways.
Yeah. Also, it's stress relief, just like you're
Yeah.
talking about. This is a very anxious time.
It
so
is.
how people deal with anxiety is different. That's why they bought, like you said last week, a bunch of toilet paper. It's because I got to do something.
Yeah. Zach, anything else in terms of the trucking movement we should look at or people should be looking at either in Sonar or in general in the market right now?
I think it'll be fascinating to see just how capacity fluctuates over the next coming weeks.
Okay.
We're talking a lot about volumes. A lot of that volume is specific to niches, but at the same time, we're seeing tender rejection rates increase significantly as well. Those have gone vertical here in the last day or so, and I think it'll be fascinating to see just how much trucking supply is impacted, just as well as the demand for these trucks. Because a lot of these trucks are going to come, they're going to be occupied trying to find parking. They're going to, depending on their hours of service, how that plays out, what type of commodities are involved in that hours of service, relaxing.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting just to see how the capacity is impacted in the near term as well as the demand. Yeah.
And Paul Enos, who we talked to yesterday, he seemed like it seemed like he was saying if there was a need for it, there may be further relaxation. This could just be a first step, if I understood him correctly, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about.
All right, Zach, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Coming up next, it's market expert Anthony Smith. You know him from FreightWaves Now and Freightonomics. He's going to tell us about the economic impacts. We've been looking at the stock markets. He's not a big stock market guy, but he knows a lot about consumer spending and household starts and all of those things that could be drastically impacted in a quarantine situation like we're in.
Definitely. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, but wish it was under better circumstances than a global pandemic. But as you mentioned, definitely keeping my eyes on the consumer side of things because, as we all know, the consumer drives the economy, and this is definitely going to be an impactful one for the consumers.
The virus is already claiming American jobs. We've seen that. We actually had someone in our comments. He lost his job beforehand, but in terms of it claiming American jobs, I guess there's a way to look at it and keeping people out of jobs because it's going to be harder to. How do you go meet with HR when everybody is under quarantine? I'm sure we'll figure out ways. We'll be on Zoom. It seems like everyone is on Zoom at the moment. That's why we can't have our phone line open.
Right.
But again, if you guys do leave comments in the comment section, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So I was looking at some stats. So they're looking at the state of Connecticut sort of as a precursor of things to come. And it was talking about the 41 cases that were confirmed there as of Monday evening. And they're looking at how unemployment claims are spiking along with diagnoses of the virus, right? So they had 1,000 flyers over the weekend. They usually receive 1,000 flyers for unemployment. They got 8,000 over the weekend for unemployment. So what are we going to see?
So this is one of those regional things, right? We still haven't seen it on a national level. We haven't seen it on, U.S. jobless claims on the national level have not spiked. In fact, they've gone down over the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to be watching closely Thursday. These numbers come out from the Labor Department on what the movement is. I'm expecting some rise there just because now it's starting to impact those who aren't able to work remotely. And I think that's going to be a huge part of this whole story, right? Is those that aren't able to work remotely, they don't have that capability. Maybe their job function is such that they have to be in person, they have to be there. And so those are going to be, I think, some of those first employment jobs or some of the employment opportunities that start to get curtailed is because they aren't able to provide that service in person.
And you would expect that to be in the services industry, as you're saying. They can't provide that service would imply service industry,
Exactly.
restaurant, bars, etc.
Exactly.
Right?
Restaurants, bars, especially as we kind of see, it hasn't hit on a national level yet, but
Right.
we're seeing a lot of regional levels where in certain states they are limiting restaurant gatherings, gatherings more than 50, some as strict as 10. So we haven't seen that on a national level, but it seems like it's starting to get there slowly but surely, ramping up from region to region. And so maybe we're slowly starting to really ramp up these social distancing measures.
I guess, but then we keep seeing on Twitter, that helicopter shot of people partying at spring break on beaches in Miami and throughout Florida, and even in Nashville, you saw people partying at clubs. I think the government has to step in a lot of these situations and just get people to I don't want to say mother them, but get them to get the hell back inside.
Right. And so I think that's really going to be a part of the whole story is going to be how that ramps up. And so I think when we're seeing things like in New York, it's going to be a completely different scenario and environment than we will see, I'm sure, in Chattanooga, Tennessee here. But I think maybe we'll all get to that end point eventually. But as of now, we're not seeing that on a national level. Surely as we see the headlines update on a day-to-day basis for the White House measures of how to react and what to do, we'll really start to see some of those measures implemented on a national level.
They may have to. So I was looking at some statistics. In March of 2009, more than 800,000 job losses were counted. Kevin Hassady is a former chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. He told CNN that losses could cross 1 million once this week's tallies are recorded.
I mean, I think that's definitely an aggressive figure for sure, but it's not out of the realm of reckoning because we're at unprecedented times at this point. And so what I'm expecting is that we're going to see definitely a certain spike in Thursday's jobless claims. The other area that I'm going to be mentioning or watching closely, I think, as Michael Vincent mentioned, is job openings. And so when we're starting to see that pace, that's more going to be the demand of labor. And so I think more and more businesses are going to start to limit the amount of interviews. You can't fly in to interview. You can't
Right.
meet with HR. And so I think job openings is going to be a crucial area to watch. That's already been showing some signs of weakness before the coronavirus really started to pick up. So I think between the demand for labor and the pace of layoffs really start to meet one another, I think that's really going to be something telling for the overall U.S. economy, especially for consumers.
What is going to happen to consumption during this? So we're already seeing in freight, buying habits are changing, all of those things. Where do you see this going, especially as people start to, I guess, get over the panic a little bit, which seems hard, but I think it might normalize a little bit after a few weeks when you're stuck inside, and you may want to, as we mentioned earlier, build out that home office or get some of those leisure activities. So is there going to be any positive to consumption here? I imagine on the e-commerce side there definitely would be.
Sure. So I think e-commerce is definitely going to be a safer area for retail sales, but I think maybe there might be some sudden spikes for grocery stores just because of all those pull forwards. But I'm a little bit uncertain as to whether or not that's going to expand into other areas of consumer consumption, because I think when we're looking at times like these, it's one thing when we have consumer sentiment is down in the drains. That's also going to be how they really speak is going to be to their wallets, right? And so if someone is uncertain, even if they are quarantining, they're in good standing with their position, if they're seeing jobless claims starting to come up, if they're starting to see unemployment spike up, they might start to bear down and start to really conserve and really kind of stockpile cash and really be a little bit more hesitant. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have those folks that can work remotely. They're not in fear of they're losing their jobs at all. Everything's going fine. Maybe they will spend a little bit more liberally than the rest of Americans, but I think it's going to hit a few people mentally a little bit more if they can't make these purchases because they're a little bit uncertain about their employment future and outlook.
Yeah, at the moment, it's not like anyone's broke into the rice yet, right?
Right.
We've bought the rice, we've bought the pasta. I mean, people used to be getting that. But once you start breaking into the rice, I think that's when the panic sets in, because that probably means we're in a situation where only X amount of people are allowed in a grocery store, for
Right.
example. So there are these giant long lines like we've seen overseas
Right.
of people waiting in line to get into stores to buy these basic essentials, which I imagine could be kind of maddening. And that would probably have a pretty strong psychological effect on consumers, not just now, but I think throughout the decade.
Definitely.
It's almost like if you remember if you're, I don't know, I'm 40, if you're my age, our grandparents who lived through the Great Depression,
Oh, yeah.
they would always have this sort of psychology that was formed by being through that event, which was to always be kind of, tight with their spending and never know when the next dollar is going to come from there, and always have a nest egg and a savings and all of those things that aren't huge values of millennials.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think this is going to start to play into the psychology of some people, right? So maybe 10 years from now, if there's the slightest hint towards some type of an outbreak, millennials and Gen Zers are going to just revert back to, oh, I got to buy some toilet paper. I remember last time it hit the fan, and I got to go get some paper towels. I have to go get rice. I have to go do these things. So that might start to play into the psychology of some individuals
And
now.
some people, it'll just be their normal daily life to have that backup there. Right?
Exactly.
They'll just like freak out if they don't have a 30 pack of toilet paper in the closet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I mean, we have an employee here that was through the earthquakes in San Francisco, right? And so he lived in a tent neighborhood for, I don't know, a couple months. And so when this started going, last week, speaking with him, he said he's got a few months worth of food in his house. Always has, ever since he lived through that experience.
Right. I think a lot of people are going to take that approach, especially being stocked up for at least 2 weeks of uncertainty if you can't leave the house or something like that. Individuals like, I know me and a lot of my other friends rely on things like Uber Eats and Postmates and things like that, food deliveries, DoorDash, whatever. And that's probably going to be limited in the coming weeks. And so having to really find other resources, maybe revert to the college days of, like you said, breaking into that rice, tuna, ramen, what have you. And so really being able to, I think prep is going to be something that's going to stick with a lot of people moving forward.
Andreas Lofton has a question. He says, are the customers going to take the loads when the truck get there for pickup and delivery? As we mentioned earlier, some people were reporting in the comments that they're having temperature taken, there's social distancing measures going on, handoffs going on, things like that. I would definitely call the customer before you bring the load there, but I think at this point it seems like most are still accepting loads. They're just coming up with different measures. I think the big change will happen, especially in warehousing distribution, will really impact Amazon, is if they limit it even more to how many people can be in one building or one space. You can't really run an Amazon distribution center with 5 people.
Sure. And I think Amazon, they're always ahead of the curve in things like this. And as we mentioned, they're ramping up hiring, things like that. But I can only imagine this playing into their future outlook of really implementing a lot more automation, and really kind of looking to have a lot more automation within those warehouses and fewer individuals and less hands on it and more maybe robotics and things like that within the warehouse. But shifting gears a little bit, I think one of the areas I think probably my last note here that's going to be the hardest hit is going to be the industrial sector. Manufacturing was already in a weak spot. I think as we really ramp up and see more social distancing, especially in factory workers and things like that, manufacturing, that's going to be one of the most impacted industries, I think, as we go throughout this rest of this downturn.
Now, we haven't heard anything about fuel shortages yet, have we? I ask because Juan Rodriguez said trucking has been down for a few months now with this virus, possible fuel shortage and drivers away from home on freight. How would they get back home? Well, the good news is that, gas stations are still open.
They're still rolling. As far as I know, I haven't seen it or heard anything about any type of fuel shortage.
It brings up a point, like these things escalate quickly, though.
Right.
I mean, one national order, one lockdown order, and so we can't guarantee you that there won't be a problem with that, but at the moment there is not. And in terms of rates and trucking being down, as Zach spoke to, at the moment, at least, the getting is good on the rates, and the fuel's a little bit lower. So if you're on retail, you might be taking the benefit of that.
Yeah, that's right. Fuel's down. It's there. Loads are up. People are rolling. Yeah. They just can't take a shower. Which, I mean, not to belittle that point.
No, yeah.
I make that point because I think it's a serious thing. I mean, we hear it time and time again, Dooner, when we're talking to these people, bringing up the fact that at these rest stops and these travel centers, et cetera, that they rely on.
Yeah.
I mean, we that's our home. We go to every day and clean up and have some food and so on and so forth. They're pulling in there, and a shower doesn't work. They can't do it, and that's it's got to be solved eventually.
Well, if you think about it, too, if you are over the road, especially for a long time, that truck is basically your house. You only have so much space. It's not like you can stockpile that much toilet paper or hand sanitizer in there. I mean, your sleeper bed is basically your closet area, so you can't be doing this stuff. And what happens is, and most truckers won't because they don't have the space, but when they go to stop at the rest stop or Walgreens or wherever, they can't even get that one bottle of hand sanitizer they want.
Right. And the truckers are really doing this nation a huge service, especially during this time.
Amen.
Yeah. Anything else, Anthony?
That's going to be it on my end. As I mentioned, watch for those jobless claims come out Thursday. Definitely keep your eye on where employment numbers are going because that's really going to be telling for the consumer activity.
And for more live questions for him, tune into Freightonomics tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Right. Correct.
On FreightWaves TV.
Awesome. Thanks
Same
for
channel
having me.
you're on now. Check it out. Thank you for joining us. And coming up next, my co-host on Put That Coffee Down, also works in editorial over here, market expert. Great quarter, guys, which is on at 2 p.m. today. It is Kevin Hill. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
Given the
Michael
circumstances,
Vincent.
right?
How you doing, huh?
Given the circumstances,
Given
right?
the circumstances, things are going well right now.
Yeah.
So,
For you.
cautiously optimistic. For me, yes. For me, it's going okay.
Yes,
So-
because in the news, right, in a letter to Congress, United Airlines CEO Oscar Muniz said the coronavirus is having a worse impact on airlines than 9/11 did in 2001. If you notice, there's a theme here. We're hearing a lot of 9/11 comparisons. It's 2009 and 9/11 is brought into this coronavirus talk every time. And it's telling because think of all the other things that we've had happen between those events, and none of them have had 9/11 and 2009 put together in the comparison.
No, you look at 2009, the financial crisis, it was something that was internal. So an internal part of the system broke down, and probably too much debt was part of that. But 9/11 was an external shock to the system. This coronavirus is another external shock to the system.
Yeah, and somewhat unknown where it's going to go, right?
Exactly unknown, just like 9/11, right?
Yeah, 9/11 was immediate lockdown and unknown. I
Immediate
remember it very,
lockdown,
very clearly.
Yeah, and I think maybe this will be a longer lockdown than 9/11 will be.
Yeah, well, you can't
that's
have
my
the
gut
president
reaction.
saying, "Hey, it's National Go Out to a Restaurant Day to support those people," right? And
Yeah.
getting
You
people
can't,
out of their
yeah,
house. I mean,
yeah.
that was the motivation.
That
right?
was. It was
You remember that?
go out and
Eventually it
buy,
was
go
get
out and shop,
go,
get
live
get
your
out.
life normal, live, get out here is the best thing we can do. Now it's, hey,
Stay indoors.
Stay indoors, don't do anything is the best thing we can do right now. So it's
It is exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's really 9/11 hit the airlines the hardest, and it's hitting the airlines very hard right now. But while volumes are certainly up in trucking, there's still a lot of unknowns that you guys were just talking about. We hit the Pennsylvania declared a state of emergency and shut down the rest stops, which is right in line with truck
someone
stops.
mentioned that.
And
in our comments.
Yeah, so that's been so basically I think they might reevaluate that.
It's a big state.
It's a big state, and basically there's
long
facilities
state.
there.
Yeah, I know. You could run out of fuel pretty easily driving a semi with a load on the back through Pennsylvania.
yeah.
Yes, you can definitely do that. So the rest areas have facilities there for truckers and travelers, and if those are shut down, then that's another bottleneck kind of going to the truck stops and making them even more crowded.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of worries there. So that just came out today on FreightWaves.com, and we also have Ontario, Canada declared a state of emergency as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yesterday they halted a lot of travel in and out of Canada. Doesn't apply to freight or, I believe, U.S. citizens. So that's a good thing, but they're clamping down. I think the EU is certainly external visitors are being clamped down, and maybe within borders too, I believe.
Yeah.
As well on that front. So
A lot of this stuff sounds like cheating on the diet, though, in a lot of ways, right?
it
These
does,
quarantine efforts is like, yeah, I'm on a, but we keep putting little asterisks and these things. I mean,
but how do you have a total lockdown?
I know, and
you
you'd have
really can't.
everything would grind to a halt.
It would do it very quickly. I mean, it's kind of grounding down to a halt right now.
Yeah.
Except for essentials, and basically that's another thing that's in the news right now is the Amazon, the 1,000 or 100,000, right?
I was going to say, because you guys were saying you
It
can't
was
go to the store,
100K.
you can't go buy or go out to eat or go buy a meal, but you can say, we'll go online and buy some stuff.
You can
buy some board games, buy some homeschooling materials for
Yeah,
your kids. You're
absolutely.
stuck with them for months. Don't
Right.
just let them go wild. Don't let them turn into wolf children.
Yeah, exactly right. And it looks like Amazon is now barring shipments from third-party sellers that are non-essential items to their warehouses.
Yeah, until April 5th.
Until April 5th, yeah. So even those non-essential items that everyone thinks people will be at home buying might not be available.
Well, I went on there.
as well.
I was looking for home office stuff on Amazon, home office, some equipment for my own things, and everything was down to like the knockoff Chinese seller, sketchy. It has like 60,000 reviews, but you never heard of the company before kind of stuff.
Right.
It's causing an interesting effect, though, because now I'm like, you know what? Next time I have to get some groceries to bring in the house, I'm just going to get that headset when I'm at Walmart or when I'm at Target. I mean, provided it's there. It may not be, because the way humans work, right, is everyone else probably goes on there and they're like, oh, that's all they have available. You can't get a Logitech headset or whatever.
Exactly right. So you're finding those issues going forward. So we'll see how everything shakes out over the next couple weeks, and basically probably longer than that. So,
Yeah, that's the interesting part to me is you keep putting this till April 5th and so on, but
Seattle is one of the hot centers, right? And two Seattle cargo terminals have closed as trade slowed there due to the trade war and coronavirus. Now, this is due to overseas volumes, though, right? Not really.
In San Francisco, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seattle. No, Seattle.
Oh, Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's due to that. So basically, San Francisco is on lockdown, but that excludes the Oakland airport and the ocean port as well.
But it's in Seattle, cargo terminals have closed as two of them have closed as trade is slowing down. I guess my question is, are we going to see this happen throughout the nation's seas with ports shutting down, or is this kind of isolated there because the China's back online?
I think it's isolated there because China is coming back online. There's a lot of supplies that we need, certainly medical supplies that are coming in. Hand sanitizer is one of the most popular cargo coming in right now. Tissue, hand sanitizer, medical supplies. So I think you'll see activity at the ports increase over the next few weeks as we get restocked.
One of the people watching also stated that drivers are saying that getting food is becoming a problem due to some rest stops being closed and a lot of rest stops either not being full service anymore or just running out of goods in general.
Yeah, no, it's a problem, right? You're on the road, you need food to go on, right? And basically, along with that, it's problematic getting coronavirus tests if you're a truck driver, because a lot of times you need to go to the clearest clinic that you can do based on your home address. And if your home address is in Oklahoma and you are in Tennessee, you can't really get back to that. So they're coming up with some solutions. We have a report on that on FreightWaves as well about how to open up drive-through clinics. And I think they are thinking about doing more and more drive-through clinics. Of course, you can't really pull a semi through a drive-by clinic. So that's something that the OOIDA, the Independent Owner-Operator Association, is working on right now, and we have that report up on FreightWaves.com.
Gary Harmon, he writes, I do specialized freight millwork and pad wrap. My season was to start up this month, going to sit here at home until May now with all the bills, talk on the hill with payroll, tax cut, and other cuts, but I am a one-pony show and don't pay those taxes. How are they going to help us? There may be an insurance break on premiums if you park the truck for a couple months to get through this. Thanks, guys. Wow, he's down to just trying to get with his insurance company and just get those to take those premiums off them.
I know, I mean, basically, I think you guys were talking about it earlier from the daily pickup today, is that half of U.S. jobs are in jeopardy, at risk.
Is that real or is that a scare tactic?
No, I think it's real. I think you're seeing more stores close, right? Especially non-essential or, luxury brand or name brand stores. I mean, they're closing for 2 weeks. It's probably going to be another at least 2 weeks on top of that. So you're going to have people that are basically unemployed for a month, maybe 6 weeks going into that. So those jobs are at risk. And then once you come out of this, how quickly can you ramp up economic activity? So I think going forward into the second quarter, you're going to see unemployment climb steadily, if not rapidly. I think over the weekend in the same daily pickup is that typically Connecticut sees 1,000 unemployment claims. So they saw 8,000 this last weekend. So it's becoming more and more of a problem, and that's just something that everyone has to deal with. I saw there's a briefing right now, and basically they're discussing sending every American a check.
Wow,
Right
so like UBI basically.
Yeah,
Universal
like
basic
UBI,
income,
something like that, or maybe a stimulus check like you had in, I think, 2007, 2008, during the financial crisis. So I don't know if it's UBI or a one-time check or what it will be, but there's a lot of people that that have rent, mortgage, food, all those expenses, and you just can't go 2, 3, 4 weeks without getting paid.
Some of these things are highly politicized type things like universal basic income. A lot of argument around that. A lot of claims depending on which side of the aisle you're on. But it's curiously an emergency that the government is at least starting to come together a little bit now to realize the needs of the people instead of denying what was happening, which I think we may have been doing for too long.
I think we have. I think everyone did, right? Italy certainly did. China did. I think the whole world was, but I think I think everyone really recognizes the risks that this plays. Certainly flattening the curve is a hashtag of the last couple of weeks, and there's many reasons for flattening of that curves, and medical capacity being one of the top things that you don't want to get into a triage position like you see in Italy right now. You just really don't want to see that. So that's a very important part of the equation. And I think UBI, if it's short term, I don't think would be politicized all that much.
Nice. So this is the coronavirus freight market update. These are going to be happening Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 p.m. where usually we'd have a phone line up. I think that Zoom system is overtaxed, but we are taking your messages on the LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for FreightWaves. Let's talk about a couple shows that are coming up, though, because this is also coloring our other podcast and things. Let's talk about Put That Coffee Down first. We're doing that one tomorrow. We pivoted off a topic we were going to talk about what a lot of people are doing right now, which is selling from home for the first time, working from home, selling in a crisis, and having to deal with this change in workflow, not just of themselves, but of their potential customers as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And I just put out a LinkedIn post asking who is working from home now, and unanimously everybody, 15, 20 responses already. We're already working from home, so it looks like basically the entire country, the biggest work from home experiment of all time, and that's the feedback that we're getting. Initial results from our survey itself is the same. So everyone's basically they're working from home and they're working with their entire family from home too. So everyone's quarantined together. So that's additional challenges onto that. And then on the survey as well, selling into this crisis is deemed harder than any other crisis, hurricanes or basically just a snap in capacity, tightening, anything like that. They're saying that this is the toughest, or that they perceive this will be the toughest way to sell into both existing accounts and new accounts. And
Disney Plus was kind enough to put Frozen 2 out on that network.
I saw that, and I figured you'd be very happy about that.
It looks beautiful in 4K Ultra.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's Put That Coffee Down.
Be really good.
Hopefully Zoom will be back up. We take your calls during that, and similar to this, very interactive, very community engaged experience. That will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow, right?
1 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time. And you'll be our special guest. You have dealt with our Sonar sales team.
Yes.
You have been in the business for a very long time. You've managed remote teams. You've managed on-site teams, and you probably know firsthand the difficulty that can happen in that transition and the muscle memory that people who are maybe used to working from home have, and the discipline that people who are new to it still have to learn.
They absolutely do. So it'll be an interesting topic because there's tactics that you need to switch gears a little bit, come from a different perspective, and understand where everybody is at. Be a little bit more consultative, right?
Yeah.
In your approach, and really feel that, and be empathetic and honest and sincere about it. Really through a time like this.
No, Thursdays at
definitely.
4 p.m. Your show, Freight Forecasting, is on, right?
Yeah, so freight forecasting, 4 p.m. Eastern on
Now,
Thursdays.
how do you forecast in an environment like this where we're thrown a coronavirus or a pandemic? It's almost like if you've ever played you ever played one of those world building games, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then like the
Absolutely.
disaster
Axis
just comes.
and Allies.
Yes.
Yeah, Risk or Axis and Allies.
Yeah,
those type of
SimCity.
things. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm 54, so
Yes.
we were board games. I didn't have SimCity.
Oh, okay. Well, in SimCity that can happen.
That's Space Invaders.
Yes.
is what I had. It's incredibly difficult, and you've got to rely on many different data sets, and they've got to be global data sets, right? I mean, one of the things that we're talking about is becoming a quick theme is how does this recovery look, and it's all timing of where are the different societies at, or the different countries at, or globally in this pandemic. Are they on the backside of it, or is it just exploding? How long is the United States going to be in the explosion mode and not and get to that backside? And that's why, the April 5th until April 5th or until April 15th is all guesswork right now. I hope that it's too long and next week everybody goes, hey, it's gone. That'd be awesome. But you got to be prepared for the other. So how does China come back online actually affect us? Well, maybe goods are available that we need, but is there anybody here to consume them? I mean, do we have the wherewithal to consume them? I mean,
And the confidence to consume them, right?
Pardon me?
And the confidence in the economy to actually go out and buy.
Because even after we hit the peak and we kind of level out and it looks like we're going towards the backside, who's confident that you're going to go outside and there's not going to be a re-outbreak, right? Is one of the
that's a wild card in the whole
fears.
scenario.
That's a wild card, absolutely.
Yeah, because that is a real possibility that, when you flatten the curve, you don't really terminate the outbreak. You just slow the process, and then there's the opportunity for another outbreak maybe in the fall.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting after effects of this and reverberations throughout the consumer psychology, the workplace psychology, and also, as Dooner and I were talking about earlier, the possible speed up of the advancement and adoption of new technology and new ways of doing business, right? That people are being forced into.
Oh, yeah.
There's companies that never prepared for this type of thing and have quickly done it and are learning lessons right now and may adopt them.
There are companies that have already said, including brokerages, who did the hard work of getting digital and automating processes and setting themselves, future-proofing themselves, not necessarily for this event, but forecasting that there would be a need at some point, that have sent a lot of their brokers home. They're operating just fine, connecting to the VPN, and they're realizing they can save a lot of money on office and industrial space, and they said they're sticking to this work-from-home model for a lot of employees. And it's something that millennials have been begging for a long time, as more and more get into power, as millennials start to age. I think that a lot of people are going to jump on this opportunity to expand that. And I think that the optimism here is the advancements that we are going to see happen by necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. So we're going to see it happening in warehouses. We're going to be seeing the way stores deal with inventory, the way Amazon goes about hiring and even dealing with their partners. They just got rid of a lot of people in their network.
Yes, they
right?
did. Yes.
And they unwinded some big, strong relationships that could have maybe come in handy now that a lot of people are going to be ordering more packages than ever.
And how do shippers deal with those drivers at check-ins? You're seeing the difference in the or people talking about the wait times and how they're checking them in. Virtual check-in and seamless check-in that is necessity right now would be a tremendous boost to efficiency.
A lot of technology
Expediting
companies
the
out there.
process.
Yeah, a lot of technology companies out there. It's been trying to get that adoption rate on these virtual sign-in and check-in.
Yes.
Get that adoption rate, and this event will, a fortunate event, but I think that will speed it up and make it status quo. It won't be some new technology. It will be just the way things are done going forward.
This is probably a whole show's worth of argument, but just real quick, one thing that I online, because we're hearing so many comments now, but there was someone out there who was saying that, this is the major problem with optimization or network optimization, is that you are optimized for the current conditions that are occurring at that time, but if something major happens, you are completely at a loss. And I think that an example of that might even be sort of like even the Grubhub delivery space, where you have a sustaining movement of goods for the people who are ordering, and now you add 80% more people to buying. You need 80% more drivers.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yes.
And efficiency.
Yeah.
Drive efficiencies with what you have. Right. Yeah.
So does that mean optimization's a terrible thing, or that
Well,
what we should learn from
there's-
this is that process optimization, like check-ins, like you mentioned, digital check-ins, things like that expedite things are still great.
Yeah.
I think it proves that optimization isn't linear, right? It's not just a straight line. It's exponential, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the situation.
Sure.
And certainly on Grubhub and Dine-In, basically a lot of optimization is a perfect example of that, because then you're just deluged with work.
Yeah.
Right? You're just deluged with orders at a moment's notice, and you have to respond to that. And the winners respond to it in the right way. The losers screw it all up.
Michael Caney, he says, I'm actually excited about some of the efficiencies that we will be forced to adopt as a result of this. And I think that's what makes this event eerie but interesting and wonderful but scary at the same time, is that it's so 2009, 9/11,
Yeah.
obviously horrible events. Coronavirus probably not going to be a long-lasting great event, but things do change, and optimizations probably will occur because of this. And I think a digital revolution that we've been building towards anyway is going to at least be a huge byproduct of where the cards fall.
You're right. If you look at 9/11, right, security,
Yeah.
but the adoption rate was low on security, and we didn't do a lot of things we should have been doing, and all of a sudden, 9/11
Theater,
happens, exponential curve up, right? And
Yeah.
that was the optimization of it. It was shame on us for not doing it sooner. All the security measures, but right now, cybersecurity, another that hacking, ransomware, it's basically a necessity is the mother of all invention. And it's the mother of all optimization too, really.
We'll have the cleanest workspaces we've ever been in. I mean, we will just be obsessed with sanitizing, and probably for the good, but people will now be forever changed in their own hygiene habits.
Yes, but definitely. Definitely. This is going to be the new normal.
I mean, we can talk about that from several different perspectives, but my was like just kind of shocked at how many people weren't doing it.
Yeah. Like how quick the paper towels and the soap.
all of a sudden they're gone. Like you weren't
Yeah.
washing your hands before.
Less people in the
Talk about
bathroom.
network stress.
And
Yeah.
more soap consumed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly right. But
Well-
I think sanitizers, I think things like that are going to be necessities going forward.
Yeah.
Gary says the one
Absolutely.
good thing about this is a lot of companies will close and truck capacity should go down and rates should go up. Well, okay, Gary. Jeez. That's dark, Gary. That's not fair.
That
But
is
yeah,
dark,
I mean,
yes.
look, it's going to happen. I mean, that happens in anything. Business is not business is,
creative
is like
destruction.
nature. It's a brutal world, right?
Yeah, creative destruction.
Yes.
Basically, you have to have the discretion for the creativity that moves technology and optimization forward.
You do a show called Great Quarter, guys. It's on at 2 p.m. today. Folks, stick around for it, but let's give them a little preview of what's going on there.
So basically, we are going to do a short segment with TransFlow to start it off, and then we are going to move into an interview with Ryan Schreiber, who will be calling in, if Zoom works, I suppose.
Yeah.
And from there...
You can call direct to your phone on that board. I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll have Ryan Schreiber on, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to operate a business remotely or in times of crisis. They're the great consultants over at Carrier Direct, so we'll get their advice and talk a little stocks.
Sounds good. Your show is going to be absolutely fascinating. Great Quarter, guys, focuses on company earnings and things like that. Which,
exactly.
when we get the next round of earnings, seeing the impact of coronavirus, and it already showed up in the last round of earnings, right?
They do, and FedEx reports after market closes today, so that's going to give us some great insight on freight flows globally.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. Everybody will be really tuned into that.
All right, you'll have to come on with the truck on Friday and inform us. On Thursday. We can talk on
Oh, yeah,
on Thursday.
exactly.
Yeah,
We can talk on Thursday.
12 noon on Thursday, so his show today, 2 p.m., 12 noon on Thursday. Join us back here again for the same style of show. We're going to have different market experts on. We're going to be talking about, as long as this goes on for how the corona, and as long as we're able to, how the coronavirus is impacting freight flows and those of you in the industry. Thank you for joining us.